Well, is anybody there? Well, is anybody hearing me? Oh, there you go.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys.
Hey, George.
Hey there, Corey.
Did Danny get in yet?
Pardon my attire. I didn't put on a suit for you guys this morning.
No problem. Did Dan get in?
I don't see him yet.
He's showing up here, but his camera isn't on, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm in the car.
Okay.
Where the hell are you going, Berger?
Oh, I got things to do and people to see.
Want to get you guys, get everyone connected. George Harrington, Dan Berger, meet Greg Burton out of New York.
Greg.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Yeah, it's great to meet you.
Same here.
We're going crazy. How about you?
It's unbelievable. I'm starting to, they're
Probably worse for you.
all around the front of my door.
Are you in the city?
It's horrible over here, man. It's like you're just locked in. All we can do is the cops are like circling, waiting for somebody to walk around without a mask.
Where are you?
Yep.
On Long Island, out in the Hamptons.
Whereabouts?
Sag Harbor.
Oh, nice. That's not a place to be cooped up.
Well, when you're cooped up, it really sucks because you're looking outside and it's gorgeous, and the water is great. It's about a quarter-mile away one way and down 3 miles to the ocean, and I'm stuck inside, and it's driving me freaking crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beaches are closed, right? Beaches are totally closed.
You can't do a thing.
Yeah.
They got police line things going across there. Really, it's unbelievable. So I'm just trying to survive it, man. It's
yeah.
Luckily, I'm so busy with other stuff right now. With we got one big funding guy that is hounding me. In fact, he just said, "Can I talk to him?" I said, "No, I'm busy. Sorry, guys." And yeah, he wants to take all of our round right now. And I'm saying actually I want to diversify a bit, make sure everybody gets a chance to get in, because it's never good to have one big funder in. It's always good to have it, have more than one big funder. So that's why I'm.
Good. Good start. It's a nice way to start.
Isn't it? Well, no, it started with starvation.
Yeah.
We built the thing, and then we were doing great, and then the site basically got outmoded by other technologies. It was a thing called Ruby on Rails, and it was doing well, but then it started getting, this is only from a year and a half ago, we actually had the site up and running, and so people were starting to use it and stuff, and then all of a sudden, like, technology got old, and the thing started crashing. In fact, it's crashed right now, and it just, if you get more than a couple thousand people, it just goes doink, I'm done. So it got a little crazy. And then, the funding is, we had it was good up front. We got $1 million in. I put $1 million of my own money in between 2005 and 2013. And then we got more money put in. And then recently we got everything started to crank, and the team built like out of the blue. LinkedIn has been the best thing for me, because I've met so many great people in the sports industry that have 20, 30 years experience in the business.
Yeah.
And what's really weird is that they're looking for something to do, which is even weirder. Have you guys seen the documents and stuff?
I sent them over the YouTube, your YouTube link, Greg. and they've both seen that. But you can just tell them a little bit more about, you know, the progression in terms of when you got started and how everything became about and where you are and the functionality of everything and all that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so basically, I started using technology. I was on the only public mainframe computer back in 1972 on Long Island, and there was one private one. It was like, you know, they're both the size of my house. One was in Grumman, and the other one was at Stony Brook University. And obviously, I wasn't on the one in Grumman, but the one in Stony Brook. This is back during BASIC, COBOL, Fortran, all the old machine languages that you had to learn. Sorry, was that Dan?
I think that was feedback that you had there.
I'm sorry.
I think you were hearing some feedback.
Yeah, I was. Okay, so so I know technology from when it started being technology. You know, when we came off our calculators onto computers, I was there. And back then there was this big box, a cradle for the phone. You made a phone call into the mainframe computer, and you had this phone handset. You had to put it on this cradle, and it sounded like a fax machine. That was basically the way it was to work with computers back then. And there weren't displays. It was just like paper. You put in cards or tape into the computer, and then about 30 minutes later, it comes back with either it worked or it didn't work. And at that point, it was syntax, all kinds of crap would happen, and would just blow up the program. But it really was, you know, the start of computing. And so I was 14 at the time. And then I kept doing technology, and I was also fencing and playing tennis and sailing. So I was doing all the other sports. You know, there's baseball, basketball, football, hockey, and then golf and tennis are sort of tied for that fifth spot. And then it falls off the chart as far as people knowing about it. So we call those the mainstream sports and the lower profile sports. And I've always been involved in the lower profile sports. So, but that's a good place to be. I was fencing. I was one of the top fencers in the nation in high school, and I had all the Ivy Leagues recruiting me. So ended up going to Penn, and then when I got out, well, I started fencing. I screwed up my back, and so my Olympic dreams for 1980 were out the window. But that was a good thing since they didn't go to the Olympics. Then I took up squash. I was playing tennis, but the tennis coach was also the squash coach, and he told me to play squash. So I did, and I play squash when I can, not anymore, but I play 5, 6, 7 times a week. And so that's my thing. And I've always played these lower profile sports. I was a pro sailor. I was a pro squash player. I have taught professionally in 5 sports and amateur in 6 or 7 sports. So I've always been involved in sports, very high level sports. If I decide I want to take up a sport, I've learned how to put everything else out of or find room for sports in my life, so much so that I can get good at it. And my abilities are pretty good. My eye-hand coordination is pretty decent. So I was able to get good at all these sports. So I had sports. Sorry?
It's good to have an athlete involved in a sports venture.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
No,
well, how about you guys?
Athletic success.
And you guys, how about you guys? You guys are play sports or do wellness activities.
I played baseball through college.
Uh-huh.
I think Dan's a professional golfer. What about you?
In my former life.
I ran.
Actually, I'm a JCL junkie.
Really?
I was a COBOL programmer.
Yeah, I feel sorry for you too. It was ugly back then, man. It was totally uphill. And
couldn't you run a job because it would blow up before it even ran?
Well, yeah, it was ridiculous, and things were outdated. You know, every time you got good at something, all of a sudden another technology came along. Right. That was like 40 years of that. It was crazy.
So, Greg, walk a little bit through how you know, when you started UB Sports and the functionality of it and all that good stuff.
Sure. Okay. So actually, what I could do after I get done telling you this, I can put you through the whole presentation and show you how that really does explain pretty much everything. But okay, so the progression was in 2005. I knew that we had something going. I'll go back to that in a second. But so I started a sporting goods company because that e-commerce was going to be a big business no matter what. So I learned that business cold. I had 3,000 manufacturers we were selling. We were the only company on Long Island that had like serious badminton, fencing, all the other sports that you never hear of, all those lower profile sports. My company specialized in them. So we were doing great retail, and then we started selling institutionally all around the nation, and that did actually too well. We went from 0 to 600,000 in sales in 2 years, and so that was really good. But my goal was always to be here, to be on the web with a technology that would bring the community together, that would give all the people in the other sports everything they need to become better athletes and to most enjoy their lives as athletes in sports world. And that includes also the wellness activities like meditation, yoga, TRX, all those other things, MMA, all the other things that you don't think of as sports themselves. But this is the idea is that anybody who's in contact with their body and want to stay healthy needs to have those other things as well. Because nobody just does one sport. They all do other cross training activities. They're either weightlifting or they're stretching or they're doing yoga. And I was talking to Fred Wilpon back about 10 years ago. And he said, my guys are breaking down all the time. And I know what it is. They're playing baseball 24/7 and they're not doing the yoga. This is like an 80-year-old guy. He's going, they're not doing the yoga. They're not doing the TRX. They're not stretching. They're not meditating. They really have to do these other things. And I'm looking at him going like, you're a freaking old dude and you're telling me this stuff? I was amazed. But yeah, he was really a cool guy. So when I got into this, I knew what I had to do. I knew it had to be e-commerce. I knew we had to have a great community and a great interface that could bring the top of the sports, the Olympic athletes and the pro athletes, down to the kid who's 10 or 11 who's trying to learn, and also the dad who's got to teach, or a mom to teach the kids how to play and how to keep them centered and balanced and playing other sports and not crashing and going to the bedroom and crying when they lose. So, and that's actually a really important thing, because the sports psychology for a kid is probably more important than learning the skills. When you're a young kid, you've got to understand that you're going to lose, you're going to win. And, that's really important. So the whole person is really what I cared about from day one. And I wanted to make sure that I could bring up a kid from, hey, what's that thing with the swords, all the way to being an Olympic athlete. And then I had to put the pieces together. How do I get them there? So it was obviously the sporting goods. I had to get the equipment to their hands. I had to build a place where they could find people to play around them, teams to play, clubs to play with. And then I had to get them in the community, not just locally, but also regionally and then nationally and internationally. So that's what we had as the goal. And we build everything up to that point. In the meantime, so right now those are two ways to make money. One is selling sporting goods. Two is ad revenue. That's obviously the way Google makes money. It's the way Yahoo makes money. It's the way the big Facebook, they all make money pretty much one way, and that's ad revenue. So of course, on every page, we're going to have 2, 3, 4 ads. And if you're selling a regular ad, like an AT&T ad or a Verizon ad or a lifestyle kind of ad, you're going to put that on your page. You're going to get between 1/4 cent and 1/2 cent per view. But what we're doing is putting endemic information in those banners in front of the person. If I'm a fencer, I don't really care about looking at badminton stuff. I don't care about squash stuff. I really want to see fencing stuff. So by going to the endemic supplier for that sport and finding out what these kids are playing, every member is playing, I can put those banners in front of somebody. And for that, I'll get twice as much to 3 times as much just for a flat banner. So instead of getting 1/4 cent or 1/2 cent per view, I'm getting 1 or 2 cents per view. So it means a lot to the endemic providers, and it means a lot, obviously, to our bottom line. Then you now they're doing video ads and that kind of stuff, and that triples and quadruples how much you make per ad. So that's a big, obviously it's a big model. Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, they're all making great money on advertising. But then what we're doing, so that's another 40% of our revenue. So it's ad revenue, it's sporting goods, and the other side is really a moving target right now. It's subscription sales. So like Watch ESPN, Hulu, all the video channels you can get. IMG has a video system that they charge $25 a month to watch. Hulu's like, if you want to get everything together, it's $50 to $60 a month. Sling's about half that. There's a lot of these things around, and they're all charging. By us offering the members these services, we get 20 or 30% of that revenue every month. So as a recurring stream of revenue, that is fantastic. So, but that's moving. That's growing so fast that we can't even put a target on it. We can't say this is how much it's going to be in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. All we know is it's going to be up. And it's going faster than anybody thought. They were saying 20% a year, and right now they're going about 25, 30% a year. So it's a great place to be right now. We're also going to be, so let me take you back here. In 2014, I launched UB Sports. And I said, this is going to be it. We're going to put it all together now. And I brought in a total of about $1 million then. We spent the money building the technology once. We spent another bunch of money building technology twice. And then we finally got to this third permutation that's built on a system called Ruby on Rails. Dan, you probably know what that is. And so that's really important for us. That we built it on that. But what happened, that again got outdated. So we had to go back to the drawing board, and a lot of things have changed, and there's a lot better functionality on the system that Google and Yahoo and everybody else is using. It's called ASP.NET or ASP.NET or ASP, and that's what they're pretty much all the big systems are using right now. So they can handle millions and billions of people on the sites, and we've got to be ready for that, because we're talking about a market here just in the United States of 250 million people. At very least. Some people are saying 280 million people. I also thought, sorry?
I'm sorry, how do you define that, that market?
Every participant in any sport and wellness activity.
Okay.
So when you get done with that, it's about 250 million people. Now, I've heard estimates of 280 to 300 million people out of the 330, which I don't believe. So I'm saying between 250 and 280 million. It's dollar-wise, though, when you work it all out, it's $1 trillion business. It's $1 trillion sector of our economy. So it's massive. And it's about $100 billion just in sporting goods. And there is about $250 billion in advertising. And travel on top of that, everything adds up to about $1 trillion. It's really amazing.
And just so I'm following you, Greg, the $1 trillion market, you're referring to all things sports.
Everything sports.
Does that include fan attendance, anything related to sports?
Yeah, it definitely includes fan attendance, and it includes also the things that we're not gearing up to handle on UB Sports, which is like the fan stuff, gambling, fantasy stuff. Obviously, we'll have a big part of that, because if somebody wants to actually find out firsthand what's happening in a sport, they're going to come to UB Sports. They're not going to go to a gambling site, even though they do have insights on a lot of things. It's really, they're trying to get down to the real what's happening with the athletes. And so UB Sports will have a part of that. But we've got our hands sort of full with what we're already doing. And besides which, I want to keep it as G-rated as possible right now, because we're going after the USOC and the governing bodies. They don't want to see anything happen to anybody on the site. They want to keep it like apple pie and hot dogs. Yeah. And I'm good with that. I love that. In fact, we have a whole bunch of plans to protect the kids when they're coming in. The USOC just instated something where if any kid under 18 comes onto a national governing body or the USOC site and becomes a member, they have to have a parent involved from 18 under. Now, I was thinking I was radical by having 15 and under kids bringing a parent on board. But the NGBs want to really make sure this thing is very tight. You know, they had that big thing with the gymnasts and the doctor.
Yeah.
And, I know a few of the girls who were victims of that, because I've talked to a lot of gymnasts, and they're still traumatized by it. I mean, it really still affects them a lot. And so they sort of push the needle there. with the USOC and the governing bodies, which is, again, fine with me. The safer I can make the thing, the easier it's going to be able to bring in the Pop Warner things and the little leagues and that kind of stuff. The pushback you get, of course, is going to be from the rebellious 14-year-old, 15-year-old who doesn't want to have the parents involved. In that case, they can bring the coach on board and have the coach be the adult in the room, so to speak. There are levels with that. I'm getting off track here, but there's one level where the adult can oversee, just watch over, make sure everything's okay. There's a second level that basically says if a kid wants to join a group or wants to make a friendship on the site, they have to get the adult's approval. And that's anyone under 13, that's automatic. You can't fight that. Under 15, you can, those 2 years in there and the kid starts getting rebellious and the parents trust the kid, then they can have the oversight thing and not be, saying yes or no on every relationship they make. And then between 15 and 18, unless they want to be with the governing body and the USOC, I've got to let them make their own choices. So it's built to be as safe as it can be. And that's really important for the USOC and the NGBs. And that speaks right to what we're doing for marketing. But let me go back to what happened. You know what? Now's a good time for me to break out to the PowerPoint presentation. So let me.
Hey guys, I need to jump on another call. I'm going to let you guys finish from here. And Greg, I'll give you a buzz later today, as well as George and Danny. I'll give you guys a call later today as well.
Oh, sorry, I got to go. But nice seeing you, Corey.
Yes,
Corey,
Dan, I'll give you a call. Okay, you too, George.
Okay, Corey.
Okay, guys.
Do you other guys have time to do this, or you want to just keep talking?
Greg, I have about 30 minutes.
Oh, I'll take about 5 minutes going through this. So I'll slam through.
Cool.
Okay, so I got this ready to go, and let me get you back in here. All right, screen share.
Here's Dan.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
You're on mute, Dan.
Hold on, I can do it from here. There you go.
There you go.
Here's Danny.
You don't want to see me anyway. I'm driving. Probably not a good idea. Stop video.
What kind of car is that, Dan?
BMW.
Nice. So let me see if I can get this thing going. Share screen, and we're there.
I'll be right there. I'm just letting my dog in.
All right. Okay, I obviously can't do the screen thing because I'm gonna cut you guys off if I do it.
Okay.
So anyway, I'll send it to you so you guys can see it. But basically, the idea is that we are building a system. Well, back in 2012, I sat down with the top athletes and coaches that I knew on Long Island. I put them in my dining room, and I said, "We got to talk. I've got an idea here, but I need some help." So I had this big whiteboard. I had them all sit around my dining room table, and I put a big whiteboard up, and I put a football player in the middle. I said, "Okay, let's say you're a football player. What do you need?" And they all looked at me like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Okay, let's break it down to what you need. Do you need equipment?" And they go, "Oh, yeah, okay." So then they wrote equipment. Okay, you need the rules, right? Okay, yeah, you need a team, right? You need coaches and people to play with, people to play against. You need training partners. You need sports psychology. You need to read the news. You need to see blogs. And you need to get in touch with the governing bodies, the regional bodies and the national bodies. And you want to reach out when you get better and bigger. You want to reach out to the people who could recruit you to college. So, and then to the pros. So basically we did this thing where the football players in the middle, and then we had little circles for all these other things. And there were about 25 of them that we had. And it was skills and drills videos, competition videos, fails videos, because every kid loves to see people get hurt. And
Yeah.
then we took that and we crossed out football player and we said, okay, fencer, let's put a fencer in here and see what they need. And it was the same stuff. It was bing, 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 all rules, equipment, coaches, teams, trainers, the same exact stuff. And then we crossed that out and put field hockey player in there, same stuff. So what we all concluded at the end of that little conversation was that no matter what sport you play, you need all those things. And so then we had to figure out how we're going to build this. So we built basically a data template for each one, for generically a sport or a wellness activity. And then we had to figure out how the technology would work so that every time I started a new sport, whether it's football or sailing or skiing, I would be able to get that one view with all those bubbles satisfied. And back then, even 8 years ago, no one was doing this. And even 6 years ago when I started building UB Sports, still nobody was doing it. To this day, no one has done that for all the sports, where you have access to all these functionalities and capabilities and tools and knowledge in one place for all the sports. That's really what makes this really special, is that we built this so that no matter what sport you're playing or you're interested in, you can get all that information in one place in a view that looks the same no matter what sport you're playing and what sport you're looking at. And that's how you build a culture on a site. If you think about Google, Google's the same no matter what you're looking at. If you think about Yahoo, it's basically the same thing. If you go on the Apple site, the functionality is all exactly the same no matter where you go. So the workflow is the same, functionality is the same, and all you're doing, you're going to a different subject. So that's basically how we built it. We built it so that it could do that. It took about a year to do that. Then it took about a year and a half, 2 years, with me sitting down with the programmers every day, going through how we make the back office as easy and as intuitive as possible. So if I'm an Olympic athlete, I'm not a programmer. I want to be able to load and curate, say, badminton. I want to be able to go on there as really a novice on a computer and be able to load all those things into the one portal for badminton. And so we built the system that is patentable, that is worth a lot, that took a year and a half to develop, and that is proprietary only to us, that allows anyone to set up a group or a sport or a team or a league in about half an hour. And what happens is if you build the main sport portal, every time you're on the top of a sport, there's a thing called a sport portal. And that's that central location where you can go and get all that information from the top. That is curated by an Olympic athlete or a US team athlete or pro athlete. And so that's basically how we're doing that. So I just got something from Zoom saying I've got 10 minutes left. So here it goes. And you guys have to go anyway. So basically we built this thing so it's working. We have top Olympic athletes. We had 20 athletes in originally. If you look at our personnel list, we have Olympic athletes. I just brought in Mark Henderson, who was gold medalist in swimming. He had world records and 3-time world champion, 1-time gold medalist, amazing athlete. He saw this and he loves it. He's doing something else with sports as well called the Athletes Village, and he wants to meld a lot of that content onto what we're doing. And we're finding that a lot of the top people in sports and the top organizations in sport, they want to be involved. So our marketing method is this. We're going to the national governing bodies. We're going to the top leagues. We're going to the other organizations that are big in sports that have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers. Or, like badminton has 7 million people who play badminton competitively in the United States. So I'll get to that in a second. But when we bring in a governing body, we also bring in all those members that they have already as members onto our site as our members. And we get the governing body involved because we're going to pay them 15% of the ad revenue that these members generate when they're on our site, whether they're looking at badminton or baseball or football or skiing or whatever. All the time they tool around on the site, they're generating money that goes back to the governing body that brought them in. So USTA, we're working with them right now, 750,000 members. They're going to make $750,000 just by allowing their members to be on the site on UB Sports. So
Who's
they're
that?
all into it. the U.S. Tennis Association.
Nice.
So we built something called the USTA Players Portal that we're presenting to them, and basically tells a kid who's 10 how to play the sport, including the rules and everything else. All those technologies, all that knowledge is right there in front of them, because there's a sport portal built just for them. And whenever, when we build a new sport and bring in an Olympic athlete, the first thing we tell them is, we're going to take 6 hours. You're going to be building the sport for the kid who's coming on, who's 10 or 11, or their parent who's got to learn how to play this sport. And so the Olympic
Greg.
does that. Yeah.
I love what you're discussing. Given that you might run out of your allotted time on this Zoom meeting, could we quickly address a few things in terms of the financials and what
Absolutely.
you're looking for?
Yeah.
Just so we don't run out of time. But I love what you're doing. It seems like a really an awesome platform on many levels. In terms of like this capital raise, how much are you looking for? How are you framing the valuation? And what kind of investors are you looking for?
Okay. First of all, it's the kind of investors, high net worth athletes, VCs, family offices, people who understand this stuff. We're looking for people who are personally involved with their sports, on top of being having money or being involved in a fund that's doing this kind of stuff. So family offices are right in there. High net worth athlete people and ex-pro athletes or pro athletes, they're perfect for this because they get it. They were all in the team room and they all love this kind of stuff. They love being in their communities. And they love also when they get older and they're going to retire, they got to keep their goodwill going. And they have tens of thousands of followers and fans, and they want to keep in. So, those are the guys who I want to bring in. They understand it personally. They know what it's all about.
Yep.
So that's really exciting for me. Okay, so that was who was coming involved. The way we came up with the valuation was that there's about $7 million total that has been invested in the company from the time that I started doing this 15 years ago to now. And we bought a site that was built on Ruby on Rails called Izoka. That was $1.5 million that was put into that. We bought that and brought it on. So basically, that's where we get that valuation up to there. But then the rest of it is really when you work out what the valuation should be in 5 years. The minimum with 3 million people on the site, which is like half of a governing body, is $450 to $490 million. The way they work that out, current valuations are done by $150 per member. That's the metric they use. So if we have 3 million people on the site, that immediately goes to 450 million people. But if you work on it as an enterprise value, you're looking at either cash flow or cash flow plus growth or earnings, doing a regular EPS, that price earnings ratio, that works out to, again, about between $450 and $490 million. That's the minimum. We really believe that the sweet spot is between 15 and 18 million people. So that puts the valuation in the billions.
Wow. In terms of this, the current investors are getting in at what valuation?
Current investors are getting in at $15 million. That's post money. It's $10 million current. Yeah, 15, 1.5.
Okay.
So it's $10 million pre-money. We're raising 5, and then I'll bring it up to 15 million.
Okay. Very reasonable.
Extremely reasonable.
And what's the instrument?
We are currently set up to catch equity. We can do a convertible note if somebody wants that. If they're big enough and they say, I've got $500,000, I want to put it in as a convertible, we'll do that. We have the notes already written, ready to do that. And that's a lot better for us because it keeps our dilution down. So I'd rather take the note, but we have it right now set up for equity. And there are only two classes of equity. It's either common or founder stock, and I'm the only one with founder stock. And the only difference is voting rights. So that convertible would be convertible to the closing of the round. It would be a discount to the 20% discount to the A round, and the A round is going to be in 2 years. At that time, we expect the valuation to be between $100 and $150 million. And so we'll probably do a $10 to $15 million raise at that time.
In about 24 months?
Yeah, about 24 months. We're going to go cash flow positive between 18 and 24 months.
Awesome.
And yeah, once we get there, then we're off and running. Obviously, we'll have the money to spend, and we just like decide when, if and when we want to raise any more money. But we're expecting the IPO or the buyout by Real Madrid or Coke or someone like that, or the Lakers or something. That should happen in 5 years, and that's where the valuation of $500 million to $10 billion comes in.
Sweet. So I think you were breaking up when I was asking about the amount you're looking for. Is it $5 million now?
$5 million right now, yes. And we have we need about 2.5 actually to get that's the runway we need to get 18 months to 24 months. The other 2 are basically bribe money. It's when somebody says you need a license to be with the USOC or with the MLB or someone like that. So we're keeping basically a war chest. That's how that works.
Very exciting.
This is really exciting. I still get up every day and I go like, oh my God, I get goosebumps thinking about where this is going to go. This is my mission. This is something that I there's no one doing it either. This is, we're the only guys in town doing this, and it's a $250 million market.
Is the site operational now?
It's operational. It's down right now. It's being worked on, and we want to get it replaced as soon as possible. We have a technology group in California, based in California. The technologists are in the UK and in India, and it's a big company. It's one of the best companies in the world. They're building it, and it's very reasonable. It's going to cost us less than $250,000 to get everything built.
Nice,
including the site and 3 apps. 2 of the 3 apps are going to be subscription based, and they're for trainers. They're for class trainers and for athletic trainers. So we'll be charging for people to be on those, but the regular UB Sports app is going to be free to everybody because we're going to make money every place else.
Yeah. And in terms of materials for prospective investors, do you have, you mentioned some kind of deck that you were going to walk us through. Is that an investor
PowerPoint
deck?
presentation? Yeah, PowerPoint presentation. I'll send it to you.
Cool.
And Corey has your email addresses, right?
Yep.
Why don't you give it to me right now? What's your email?
My email is GF as in Francis, H Harrington, 2462 @gmail.
2462?
Yep, GF 462 @gmail.
GFH 2462 @gmail.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
GFH 462 @gmail.
Oh, GFH 2462?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
GFH.
Okay, gotcha. And
George, you need to get an easier address.